Hey, yo, what's up, YouTube, man? It's your boy, Ashton Jackson, and in today's video, I'm going to be doing a 2-round NFL mock draft for the Dallas Cowboys. And again, when I'm doing these mock drafts, I'm doing them for what I want the Dallas Cowboys to do or what I think the Dallas Cowboys should do. The Dallas Cowboys are, at the end of the day, they're going to do whatever they want, no matter what I say, no matter how I think or feel, no matter what your favorite Dallas Cowboy content creator thinks or feels. Dallas Cowboys are going to move and team build the way they want to team build. But if I had say in what they would do, this is that's what the intent of mock drafts were supposed to be. And I think that also gets you thinking about, possible players that could be there or other realizations. Because again, although, there's a lot of people that do a lot of great draft work in our community, there's a lot of other people in the 31 other teams that do a lot of great draft content as well, that love players as much as we do. So that's why I also not try to get caught up in a lot of names like Tedero McMillan or Ashton Jeanty. I'm not going to be bummed out if any of those guys are gone. And I'm going to be talking about in this scenario why I think this is a really great exercise, because this was, I believe, a really good doomsday scenario. Doomsday meaning that all of your prospects that you thought was going to be there at 12, with players that you really liked that you thought was going to make it to 12 aren't there. So now you got to pivot to other names and other things of that nature. So before we hop into the video, I would appreciate if you guys would like the video, subscribe if you're new, comment and share my video with anyone who you think will enjoy my content. I said this is the doomsday scenario just for the simple fact. I posted right here the full mag draft results. I am using the Pro Football and Sports Network simulator. I'm not paying money yet on a PFF mock draft. Once I start getting paid from YouTube, I will, eventually pay the membership to go over to PFF or, some of these other mock draft simulators. But I really like this one just because, you get reasonable, trade back scenarios and stuff like that. But the only reason why this board, or not really this board, but the reason why the simulator is kind of off is just for the simple fact you look at it at a quick glance. Mason Graham went 2 overall. I think that Cleveland will take a defensive lineman. I don't think it will be Mason Graham. I do have Mason Graham rated as a top 5 player in this draft. I don't think he gets past Jacksonville, but I don't see the Browns taking Mason Graham at 2. Teams suck at this, as Varshan Buddy says. A lot of great people say in this community, a lot of teams can't draft. So I don't think that was going to happen, but I think that, they have higher on their board is probably Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter. But again, something like that, I don't think Will Campbell goes 3. I still think he goes in the first round. I don't think he goes 3. But again, look at the first 11 picks. Ashton Jeanty went to the Raiders. I do think that's plausible. I do think that is possible for the Raiders. And Tedero McMillan went before 12. Now all of a sudden he's back in the good graces of these scouts again, because now all of a sudden he runs a 4.48 or a high-end 4.5. I already knew he's a 4.5 athlete. His tape spoke for itself. He's going to be a top 10, a first-round selected player when he had poor quarterback play, and his quarterback is possibly not even going to get drafted in the league. That tells you how great of a talent Tedero McMillan is when you turn on his tape, and he has some of his best performances versus the #1 overall rated player, and on more than likely everyone's draft board, and Travis Hunter, and Tedero McMillan has some of the best tape against those guys. He went 9 to the New Orleans Saints. Will Johnson was a possible another corner that the Dallas Cowboys, or another player that the Dallas Cowboys like, that went way before they even picked. So now the Dallas Cowboys, in my opinion, would have to pivot when they have Emeka, Egbuka, who I selected. I'm going to talk about him in depth in a little bit. You have Kelvin Bates, who probably they have high on their board, probably as a guard, or, depending on where they have him. I think they'll probably have him as a guard more than a tackle. Tyler Booker, they probably really like. Jahad Campbell, they like when the first round at pick 24. Second round, I'll look at that in a little bit. But again, Tedero McMillan, Ashton Jeanty on the board, neither is Will Johnson. I went with Emeka Egbuka. The reason why I went with Emeka Egbuka and the reason why I selected that player is because, again, he's a 6'1" athlete, 205 pounds, coming out of Ohio State. Ryan Day produces some of the best wide receiver talents of all time. Really been putting on a clinic when it comes out to these wide receivers that have been coming out of Ohio State. And really, ever since, 2016, you got, 2015, 2016, you got to think about, Michael Thomas when he was really great in the league. You got to think about Terry McLaurin. Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave. I just look at all these great wide receivers that come out of Ohio State. I'm just like, they're really well coached. They can play the game the right way. They love everything about the game of football. They're not afraid to block. They're not afraid of anything, and their IQ is off the charts when you're looking at a guy like Emeka Egbuka. For me, what I think is underrated or something that people need to think about when they're in the first round. Also, I'm learning a lot of things off of a Super Bowl winning scout, Brian Broaddus, when I'm watching the, We're Doing All Right pod with Fosh Lombardi and Brian Broaddus. I'm learning a lot, right? And, what Brian Broaddus talks about a lot is that when he's looking at the first round player, he's looking at, because we're picking holes in everyone's games, right? We're trying to make sure we get the best player and the best prospect as best as we can, right? And you don't want to miss in the first round. He talks about, the least amount of holes, the least amount of holes I can pick into your game, that's where I'll pick you. And in the first round, if I'm spending a top 12, 15 pick on you, I'm trying to have the least amount of holes I can pick into your game. And that's what, for me, Emeka Egbuka is going to be. And another thing that I feel like people need to talk about as well is that when you're picking a player in the first round, can this player play for you for the next 10 years? Can you at least get 2 more contracts out of him before he eventually, retires? And I feel that's something that you also need to think about in the first round when you're selecting these players. Running back is a little bit different, but I feel like when you're drafting every other position outside of running back, can you get at least 2 contracts out of this player? And I feel like that's something you can get out of Emeka Egbuka. I feel that he can play the next 10-year plus in the NFL because he does all things the right way. He can run routes. He can find holes in the zone. He's going to step in and do his role because he already automatically knows he's going to come in and be the number 2. Now, I know what a lot of people are going to say. Why are we going to spend a top 15 pick? He had one of the crappiest seasons of recent memory for the Dallas Cowboys. And why are you picking a Robin? Why are you picking a wide receiver 2? The only reason why people view Emeka Egbuka as a wide receiver 2 is because he never had to be a wide receiver 1 at Ohio State. I believe if he was deemed or he was supposed to be a wide receiver 1, I think he can definitely be that in games and moments. But the reason why he wasn't that is because that's why they talk about there's levels to this, right? When he comes in as a freshman in 2021, who's on his team already? You got Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, 2 first-round picks. He comes into his second year. Who does he have? Marvin Harrison Jr. He has himself. He has Jackson Smith and Jigba dominating the slot. That's what happens in 2023. And then, in 2022. 2023, he gets a little hurt. Again, you're relegated. You thinking it's your time, but you're relegated to the wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 on most nights. Wide receiver, then he comes in 2024. He's playing with a phenom and wide receiver Jeremiah Smith, and he's a dog of an athlete, and we know what Jeremiah Smith is, and he comes out, and Jeremiah Smith is the best player on that team, but more than likely the best receiver on that team as well. So then again, that's not a knock on Emeka Egbuka. I just think that Emeka Egbuka just played with supreme talent. He's playing with generational type of talent. But I think he comes over here, he's going to be a consistent wide receiver. He's going to be a 700, 800 guy a year. This is somebody that I believe that you leave on an island by himself, that he isn't going to be able to take care of his matchup and win one-on-one coverages. We have Emeka Egbuka in the playoffs versus Green Bay. Not saying we won that game, but that game's a little bit different. We have him in the San Francisco 49ers game. When we go to them in Santa Clara, I think the game's a little bit different when we play them. I think we have him in that regular season of 2023. So that's why we're not struggling versus Arizona. We're not struggling versus San Francisco in week 5 of 2023. I think that's another guy that can get open, and they're not honed in on CeeDee Lamb and Jake Ferguson and telling you to beat us, right? I think this is a guy that can come in, do his part. Again, in another underrated fact, he's going to block. I think that if the 49ers wanted to draft a wide receiver, I think Emeka Egbuka would be a perfect 49er. I can't stand the Niners. Everyone that knows me knows that. But if I'm just talking ball right now, which I am, Emeka Egbuka would be a hell of a 49er wide receiver. He's going to block. He's going to run routes. He's going to get open. He knows everything about what the defense is doing, what you're doing within the offense. He knows where he is in the progression of the read. He's a damn good wide receiver, and you need to spend a first-round pick on him if he's on the board. You also got to think about Matthew Golden. I have him also rated as a high first-end wide receiver. So, Matthew Golden would be another type of player I'm thinking about, right? And then now going into my second selection, which is Kaleb Johnson. Again, players that were on the board. Mike Green was on the board. I don't think Mike Green is going to be available to you. I don't think he's going to get past the first round, but I don't think I don't think he'll make it back to your pick again when you get there at pick 44. So that's what I'm talking about within this mock draft. I don't. This is where I think it's kind of unrealistic. I don't think Mike Green will even make it to the second round. But guys, that's why I didn't select him, because I would have taken Mike Green. Those would have been 2 first-round selected players on my board, and I would have moved on. I would have lived life happily. But trying to be more realistic, so that's when nobody looks at me crazy trying to talk about some. I'm doing clickbait on my videos. That's why I didn't take Mike Green. But Kaleb Johnson, I'm going to take Kaleb Johnson. For me, personally, for my rankings, I have him as my second best back. Now, everyone has, Omarion Hampton. People might have Genty as their second best back. They might have Omarion Hampton as their number 1 back. However you do the work and whatever you do, that's fine. But I really like Kaleb Johnson. I really like his contact balance. I like the way he's able to catch out of the backfield. He's a solid pass blocker, also in coverage. When it's time to drop back and pass, he's a good blocker as well. He's a great outside zone type of running back. He's going to be able to run away from defenders. He doesn't have blazing fast speed, but he has great speed at the running back position. He's 6 feet tall, and I think that's a really great height for a running back. And again, he played in Iowa. He played for a Big Ten school. Iowa is nothing but football, and they are nothing but a productive school over there. You look at Kaleb Johnson, his stats for the past couple of years. Freshman, 779 yards off of 151 carries, average 5.2 yards a tote. His longest run of the year was 75 yards. We didn't even have that for the Dallas Cowboys. I can't remember the last time we had a big rush like that ever in a season. Probably hasn't happened since Tony Pollard was healthy in 2022, or probably even Ezekiel Elliott, but back in like 2018 probably. But we haven't had that in a while. Dealing with some injuries in 2023, had 463 yards off of 4 carries. Average 4 yards a carry, 3 touchdowns. And then his junior season, last season in college football, he had 1,500 yards, averaged 6.4 yards a carry. He had 21 touchdowns, and again, 75 yards was the longest run he had throughout the season. He had 22 catches, 188 yards, 8.5 yards a catch, and 2 touchdowns over the length of the season. But he had easily over 1,600 yards of production. He had an uptick in carries. He's just a really good back, and I think the 3 backs that you can give the ball 25 plus times in a game to, if you really want to lean on them, is Kaleb Johnson out of Iowa, Omarion Hampton out of UNC, and Ashton Jeanty out of Boise State. I think those are the 3 backs that can be your number 1 backs that can come in, and you don't necessarily need to pair them with anybody, right? I feel there's somebody that you can come in. He has great speed. He has a great blend of finesse, speed, and power. I think this is going to be a really good back. And also that I forget to talk about as well, I think these 2 are really day 1 starters, because that's what the Dallas Cowboys need. You can't go projects anymore. You can't do a Luke Schoonmaker pick no more. You can't do that with the way you constructed the roster in the past 2 years and the way you participated in free agency and the lack thereof. You have to have productive players in these first 2 rounds. You can't mess around a second round player in the second round this year and say, oh, we're going to take, we're going to take a player with a lot of questions, or we're going to use the second round like a 4th round, and we're going to use it as like a project player that in the next 3 or 4 years he's going to be an all-pro player. No, in the second round, I need somebody that can come in and that can start for you. That's another underrated factor that I was about to talk about for both players, was they both can come in and start for you. So, again, those are the 2 players that I selected. And one more thing I wanted to touch on before we leave and get out of here is, if we're going to take this is talking about real life. I'm not talking about mock draft anymore. I believe I did really great in the draft in the first 2 first 2 picks that I did have. If we're going to take somebody goofy in the second round, and when I mean somebody goofy, I'm not calling the young men that are coming out of the draft goofies, but I'm just saying that if you're going to take an abnormal name, somebody that was probably going to be selected in the 4th or 5th round sometime in day 3, like, again, what you had with Schoonmaker. Can we trade back at least? That this is the round where I feel like if you're going to take somebody goofy or somebody silly, trade back in the second round. Maybe pick up another fifth or pick up a fourth, depending on how far you move back in the second round. But let's do that instead of trying to stick and pick at 44 and take the sixth best running back, or let's stick there and pick the sixth best corner. No, take the best player on your board at a position of need if you possibly can, and we'll live with the results. So again, I went Emeka Egbuka in the first round, and I went Kaleb Johnson, running back out of Iowa, wide receiver out of Ohio State. I picked two Big Ten players. I do think they play a really great brand of football over at the Big Ten conference. So again, that's about it for the video. Hope you guys have a nice day. Stay safe, stay blessed.